Ever stare at your daily driver's tiny stock wheels and think, these just aren't going to cut it for my next overland trip? Well, you're not alone. Upgrading the wheels and tires on my GMC Canyon felt overwhelming at first, especially tire load ratings like SL, C, and E. Today, we're breaking it down step by step so you can shop confidently without breaking the bank or your rig. Stick around to see why I chose a near stock offset and SL load type tires for my rig. And there's some critical recovery gear changes I had to make that nobody else told me about. Welcome back to Greenfield Overlanding, where we're all about budget overlanding and making it possible with our daily drivers. Today we want to talk about how I selected my wheels and tires on my 2024 GMC Canyon Elevation. Let's start with understanding some key parameters. You get these wrong, you have rubbing, poor handling, or your tires can fail under weight. So let's start with offset. Offset measures how your wheel's mounting surface sits from its center line. For the 2024 GMC Canyon Elevation, the stock tires offset is a plus 26 millimeters. Most people think dropping to a lower offset like 0 or negative gives you a wider stance, and that will fit the bigger tires without mods. The reality is, lower offset pushes your wheels outward, which increases your chance of rubbing at a full steering lock, especially on the front wheel well. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have that wider stance look. It actually looks pretty cool. In my case, it's all about choices, and I use this as my daily driver, so I wanted something that gave me a little bit more aggressive look, a bit more traction on the trail, but I could still use this for my daily driver use. So that's what led me to make the choices that I made. Regarding load type, you want to match your mission, and load type breaks down like this. SL, or standard load, is for up to 2,000 pounds per tire capacity. These are lighter weight, and they're going to generally provide a more comfortable ride. C, or commercial, that's around the 2,500 pounds capacity, and these have moderate sidewall stiffness. E, or extra load, these are for 3,000 pounds plus capacity. They have the thickest sidewalls for puncture and rock protection. For me, this SL type is probably perfect. I do largely daily driving with my vehicle. When I do get out on the trails, we're probably 3 to 5 at the most from a difficulty range. So think dirt, gravel, and some moderate climbing on the trails. I'll do a future video to see how this SL choice has actually worked out for me in the long term. See if I made a mistake or if this was actually the right choice for me.
If you want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button.
No two overlanders are alike, so it's important to set your priorities based on what's important for you. So a few notes I jotted down about what I considered my biggest priorities were road noise versus the off-road grip. This ultimately drove me to choose an AT type tire over something like an MT. Now the MT has probably better grip off-road and definitely looks more aggressive, but the trade-off there is you're going to get a whole lot more ride noise when you're on the pavement. So I opted for the Mickey Thompson Baja Boss in the AT style. Next one up is tire size. Now tire size is a great way where you can add some additional clearance, but the trade-off might be that to make that fit, you might have to do, say, more lift on your vehicle or do some of that cutting that we were talking about earlier. In my case, it went from 265s on an 18-inch wheel to 285s, 70 R17s, which gives me basically a change from a close to 32 to a close to 33. That's going to equate into about an extra half inch of clearance for me. As I mentioned earlier, another area that can come into play is how the wheel and tire combination is going to fit and whether you need to modify anything. I'm really just not willing yet to do anything that requires me to make some cutting at the vehicle. And what I chose wheel and tire wise fits super well. Last but not least in considerations was budget. You can spend a lot of money on wheels and tires. Oddly enough, what I found in doing the research and pricing the different things I was looking at is, from a tire standpoint, Now SL was slightly cheaper in general. I found that C load types are far less common, so your selection goes down, which generally means that your price is going to go up. And E was very common, but still slightly more expensive than the SL type. One of my budget hacks here was using some of those online sizing calculators. For me specifically, I used a site called Custom Offsets, which was really great in terms of being able to put in information about my vehicle, what type of tire I was trying to go to, did I have any sort of lift kit or leveling kit, and whether I'm willing to deal with any rubbing or have to do any sort of moderate cutting. And it helped me find different choices and selections that would match that criteria. Now, still, don't just go from what's on the site alone. Do your own research, do some extra checking. But in my case, the combination of what they showed me on the sites and my own personal research led to a fit and finish that worked out great for me. For my Canyon Elevation, I went with the Icon Alloy Anza wheels. These are 17 by 8.5 with a positive 25 millimeter offset. The color here is more of a gunmetal color, which I think pairs really nicely with the metallic silver of the truck. The tires are Mickey Thompson Baja Boss. These are in a 285/70 R17 in an SL load type. Now these give me great traction. They're pretty quiet on the pavement. They're definitely capable aired down from an off-road standpoint. A few other things that I found in my planning or after actually getting the tires in place that you have to be thinking about. The Canyon's hub is 78.1 millimeters, but these Icon wheels have a 95.1 millimeter center bore. Without a ring in there, the lugs are doing all of the centering, and it's really easy to bolt the wheel just a hair off center and get a lot of highway vibration. So I added a set of these 78.1 to 95.1 rings. They snap into the wheel, they slide over the hub, and that's it. No more mystery vibrations. If your aftermarket wheels have a bigger hub bore than your hub, throw a set of these rings in your cart. It's one of the cheapest things you can do to fix those potential vibrations down the road. Another consideration is your lug nuts. So here I have, this is the standard lug nut that came with the stock wheels and tires. I would use this 22 millimeter socket that fit the lugs perfectly. Super easy to take things on and off. I could use it with my impact, and I had a breaker bar that fits that same socket. But what you'll find is most aftermarket wheels come with a different type of lug. So if we look at these side by side, you can see completely different fit, and a big part of it is the type of bore that's going to sit in the actual wheel itself. The set of lugs I bought came with this adapter, so that fits on here just perfect. And then actually I can slot that inside the 22 millimeter socket and use that to take it on and off. You might ask, why is this so important? Well, in my case, I bought a set of 4 wheels. I didn't buy a 5th one for the spare because in the case of this truck, that spare mounts up underneath the back. It's never going to be seen, plus it's going to get a lot of dirt and rocks thrown all over it, so I didn't want to invest in a nice wheel just to have it chewed up. What you have to be thinking about now is, okay, so just even in my day-to-day driving, if I were to have a flat and I just stick with the kit that's currently inside the truck, I'll have either no way to take off the flat tire because I probably won't have this matching set to actually undo the lugs, or if I just bring that, I get the wheel off by removing these lugs. I take that spare and I go to put it on, and I find out that this lug nut's not going to hold the wheel in place. What I do now is I actually carry a set of this equipment with me. I also kept a set of 6 of these lugs that I keep in a small pouch in the back of the truck. In an emergency, I have everything I need to do that. Also included Harbor Freight breaker bar. Super cheap investment, probably like 15 bucks. Throw one of those in the back underneath the seat. Makes it way easier to get those lugs broken when you're in a spare tire change situation. The factory scissor jack. already barely adequate with the stock wheels and the moderate lift that came with the leveling kit that I put in place. Now let's see how the jacks compare. Let's go in here and get our factory scissor jack out here. What? No Man's Land beef jerky? How did that get in? I'm not actually going to use this scissor jack. I found that even with the stock wheels and tires on, after I put on just a leveling kit, they became borderline useless. So now with the additional height of the tires, I find it really be difficult to work with off-road. And that's where I replaced it with this power belt unit. So a nice feature about this bottle jack and jack stand in one is that you can actually adjust this jack stand setting to the height that you need to fit your vehicle. And then I'll try to do some video in the future about how I can best keep all of these things positioned with the limited amount of under seat storage you get with the Canyon and the Colorados.